everyone, Ms. Kramer here. Today we're going to be working on our trimester 2 post-assessment still life drawing. We've been practicing for a while and doing some work with our values and our shading. So today we're going to put it all together on our final drawing. You're going to need a pencil, your blending stick. If you don't have a blending stick, you can use a Q-tip or the folded piece of paper like I showed you before. Your value scale, and something to draw a straight line with. You could use a blending stick, you could use an envelope, a piece of paper, a ruler if you have one. So grab those things and we'll get started. Okay, so if you have a Q-tip, that's fine. If you made your own blending stick, I showed you how to take a piece of paper and fold it to create your own blending stick. Or if you have blending sticks that you might have gotten in an art kit. Any of these will work for our values that we're going to be doing today. So you have those. You also will need your value scale, which we worked on the past few weeks. So our values are from 6 to 1. We do a 6-point value scale, and then this is the description on how you get each of these values. And then you have your shapes that you have been practicing. So we've worked on this, so you have that. And then this is the picture that we're going to be creating today. This is our trimester 2 drawing for our still life. So what we're going to do first is we always use our eraser first to create a grid line or guidelines. So you're actually going to take, I'm going to do this for you guys because you obviously don't have this piece of paper in front of you. If you do, great. If you were able to print it, go ahead and take your eraser and you're going to draw your grid line right down the middle and right across the middle. And the reason why we do this is so we can locate where the center is, because we're going to locate this first object, our circle, first. So if you don't have this paper in front of you, that's fine. Normally we would, but we'll use mine as a guideline. So what we're going to do is create a grid line. So you want to make sure that you have your paper so it is horizontal. Please make sure it's not vertical. This is vertical. We want to go horizontal. So I'm going to grab another piece of paper real quick here. So horizontal. And what we're going to do is create our grid line, and we're only doing this with eraser only. Okay, and this is the reason why we do this is so we can make sure that we have our line where it needs to be. I think I need to lower mine just a little bit. I think it was a little too high for halfway. And I'm not making a very straight line, but that's okay. Still issues. Okay, here we go. So do it as many times as you need to get your grid line. So, and that's why we use eraser first, because you see how I was able to fix that and get it to where I need it to be. So now I have my vertical line and my horizontal line creating the center. So the reason why we're doing that is so we can locate this circle. So we're going to create the circle and we're going to use eraser first. So whenever we are doing this, we always use our eraser first. So this is going to be our top left quarter, top right, bottom left, bottom right. So those are our quarters that we use, or our sections that we're going to call them. We're going to create. So we're going to use our eraser and we're going to locate where the circle crosses over our 4 quarters. It doesn't even hit into our left quarter because it actually hits right in the top center. So I'm actually going to bring my eraser here and hit it right in the center and bring it just up into the top left, down into the bottom right, and then over into the bottom left. And I'm going to create this with my eraser first because if I don't like it, or it might not be the right size, or it might be a little wobbly, I can actually correct that before I actually draw my circle with my pencil. So once I have this and I feel confident that it's in about the right spot, I'm going to actually take my pencil and trace the eraser the best I can. So I have my circle, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, just kind of, close to a circle. It works. Okay. Now, if you guys recall, when we did our practice on our cube, we're going to do the cube next, or in this case, the box. We actually drew this first line, the line that was closest to us first. So we're going to do that again, But we're going to actually use the bottom line as a guideline to help us kind of locate where that is, because we can find where it is touching the circle. So I'm going to look and see where it touches the circle. It's right about in this space right here. So I'm going to use my eraser and just create a little line that tells me where that is. So I just have a little kind of eraser line right there. And then what I'm going to actually do is look to see where I think the front of this box is. So I'm going to come here, and I notice how it goes up over halfway a little bit, and I know it makes contact with the circle. So if you need to now get a straight edge, so if you have another pencil, that'll work great. You can use your blending stick because we're not going to need that right now. So if you have your blending stick handy, use that. I'm going to use a pencil just so you can see, and that's something that you guys all have available, hopefully, or a marker or something like that, or an envelope from junk mail. So now I'm going to look and see where my line comes in. So it hits here, and I'm going to bring it down, and I want to kind of copy the same angle that I see. So, and this is an estimate. If you guys don't have this paper actually in front of you, so it makes it a little bit different for you. So I'll show you what we need to do. So we're going to look at this angle. We're going to try and estimate the angle, and we're going to create the angle again with our eraser, just so we can kind of get the right angle. We don't want to have it too steep or too flat. So it does have what we call a diagonal. And then we're going to create the front of the box. So this is where we're actually going to create the front. We have this line where we know it runs into the circle. So now I'm going to create this line. And because I can see what I'm doing with my eraser here, I'm actually just going to go ahead and draw my straight line down, because this is actually the line that we start with when we do our cube or a box, this front edge. So that was one of the things that we started with. We start with the front edge, and then you might recall we make an arrow. So I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to bring it back until it crashes into this circle. And notice how it's pretty long. It's got a nice long line to it. And then what I'm going to do is take my pencil and try and match the other angle that on the right side of the box. So I'm going to take this, and we're going to say it makes that arrow similar to what we did when we did our practice. We'll bring this and we'll draw our line. So you'll notice too that this line is a little bit longer than this line. So this edge is a little bit shorter. We want this line to be just slightly longer. And then we're going to create that double arrow like we did for our practice. We're going to create the double. So this is the arrow that we created at the bottom. Now we're going to do the exact same thing at the top. So we're going to take this, slide it up to the top of our line, and create that top line. And then we'll do the same thing where we have the bottom, bring it up, and you're going to create that same, make sure you don't change the direction. You want to keep it straight, parallel with the other one. So now I have my parallel. So we have our double arrow now that we created, and we've done that before. Now one of the cool things about this picture is you can actually see where this line crashes into the circle. So if yours doesn't crash into the circle, you might need to make it a little bit longer. So we should see how it overlaps just slightly on the circle right here. So we're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to take this and we're going to drop it straight down until it crashes into the circle. So then we have that overlap that happens right there. And then we're going to create the right side of the box, and we're going to use the front of the box just like we did before. And we're going to slide it over. Don't worry about the ends. Remember, the ends of the lines don't mean anything. Here, I'll actually make this one too long so you guys can see what I mean. So I'm going to make this one way too long. So let's say I made that way too long. So I don't care about the end of the line. I don't care about the end of the line. I'm creating my end. So I'm going to bring this over, slide it until I get to where I want the box to be. And I'm looking at the picture, trying to estimate where I want the box to be. And I make sure it's straight up and down. And I draw that line. So I have my parallel line. So right now it looks like a book. If you were to want to draw a book, this is how you would draw a book. So now I'm going to get rid of these lines because I don't need them. That was the ends of the lines that we don't care about. So we don't care about the ends of the lines. Remember, we have our own, as artists, we make our own end of the line. So now we're actually going to use these corners to help us, the corners that we just made. So now we're going to take this and we're going to match it with this edge of the front edge. So I'm actually going to do it this way so you can see it a little bit better. So I'm going to match my pencil or my straight edge, slide it until I get to the corner. So here's the corner. Now I'm going to draw my line. And remember, don't worry about how long it is. I don't care how long it is. And then that's the corner. So we matched this line and we created our railroad tracks or our parallel lines going in the same direction. Now we're going to do the front edge of the box and we're going to bring it, slide it until you get to your corner. And then once you get to your corner, you're going to draw your line back. Remember, don't worry about the end of the line. Get rid of that. Now, when we did our practice, we made a cube. So we did a cube. It wasn't open like this one is. So there's one line that we need to make that will create this box. And all it is this corner, this top corner, you're going to bring it straight down until it crashes into the other side of the box. So you're going to take your straight edge, go to the back corner, make sure it's straight up and down parallel, vertical, bring it down until it crashes. So you're bringing this down until it crashes into the front edge. So now what we've done is we've created that inside edge. And when we shade it, it will make sense. Okay, so this is the inside right here now. By just drawing that one simple line, we've now created this an open box instead of a cube like this one would have with the top closed. So once we have those two, and remember you guys can slow this down, you can pause it, whatever you need to do, okay? I am going a little fast, but you can pause your video. That's the nice thing about teaching this way. You can pause your video. So because we have these two pieces here, now we're going to create the ring. And the ring is not a perfect circle like this circle is. If I were to make the ring like this, the ring would look like it's standing up, and it's standing up from the table. What I want to do is actually make it look like it's laying on the table. In order to do that, I'm actually going to create an oval. So it's more of an oval shape. So I'm going to look here where it's related to the circle, and I'm going to take my eraser and create the oval shape. So it's more oval-like than it is circle-like. That's the trick to making this look like it's laying on the table. So even though it is round, it's more in the relationship to an oval. So once you have that, then you're going to create, I want to make sure this is big enough. Yeah, I think I need to make mine a little bit bigger. So I'm going to actually make mine just slightly bigger and create my oval, coming around just a little bit more. Come around just a little bit more. So that's the nice thing about using eraser first. You can do your eraser until you're happy with it. So once I have this, now I'm going to create it's more of an oval. So I have my oval shape in here. Now I'm going to create the inside. So I'm going to actually do another oval right inside here. And when we do the shading, that's what's going to create this three-dimensional. So once I show you the shading, it'll make sense. Okay, so we have that. Now we're going to create our cylinder because it's next to our circle and we can see kind of the location of it. So it's below the circle, just slightly below. So I'm going to come here and look at where it is below. So, and then I look at my halfway point. So here's my halfway point in relationship to my circle. So I have it in relationship. So I'm just going to look at this edge right here first. And we're going to draw that edge first. So here's my circle. Here's my halfway point. Here's my halfway point. And I'm going to bring it down below the circle just slightly. So I'm going to look at this. And if you need to, you can put your finger there and go, okay, this is the bottom of my cylinder. And we're just going to draw a line so we kind of know where the bottom is. What we're actually going to do is create this top or this edge first, because we know where it is in relationship to the circle. So I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm going to draw the side of the cylinder that is closest to the circle, because that I can locate very easily using my anchor. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw my cylinder, and I'm going to draw it straight up, and I have to notice how tall it is. So how tall is my cylinder? It goes pretty tall. So I'm actually going to make this a little bit taller and bring it up just a little bit farther. Create that cylinder in there. And again, we're not necessarily going to worry about the top of this until we do some calculating right now. So now we're going to kind of look at this and see how tall you think this is in comparison to the square, the box, and the circle. So for me, I think mine might be just slightly too tall, so I'm going to erase just a little bit of it. And then what we're going to do is create the top of the cylinder. And in order to create the top of the cylinder, that is an oval. So we're going to use our eraser and create an oval at the top. So you're going to use this edge to help you, and you're going to create your oval, and it's a nice big oval, kind of flattened out, almost like maybe like a pancake sitting on a table or on a plate. So we have this flattened out. So I have that. I look at this, and I compare the size roughly, and if I like it, now I'm going to trace it with my pencil. So we have the top of the cylinder. Now we're going to create the bottom of the cylinder, and remember we have to keep this curve. This is the important part, the curve. So we're going to be thinking about that. So we're going to, before we create the bottom, we need to create the other side. So we're going to drop this straight down from our cylinder, drop it straight down. Don't worry about how long it is. If it's too long, I'll make mine too long so you can see what happens. So don't worry about how long it is. So we have our two sides, the side that was closest to our circle, then we created the top, and that was an oval, then we dropped the other side down. Don't worry about the ends, because we actually kind of said it was about right here. So I have my eraser line right there. I'm going to create this curve. I'm going to copy that curve. So don't worry about the end of the line. You erase the end of the line. If it's too long, don't worry about that. That's not an issue. Okay, you make your own ends. Now we do have a little bit of overlap here, so we're actually going to end up erasing some of this because our cone actually overlaps our cylinder. So when I look at my cone, I want to look at the diagonal that I have, and I'm going to see how it cuts off the corner of this cylinder. So I'm going to take this and kind of get my angle set, and then I'm going to make my diagonal right here and create that so it cuts off this corner. So I'm actually going to erase this, and this is the one time where we have a little bit of erasing on. Usually we draw the shape that's in front, but because we can see where this cone is in relationship to the cylinder, it's okay because we're going to do shading in here and you won't see that, so that's not a problem. And then we're going to create the other side of the cone just by making your other side. And then again, we don't worry about the bottom. I'll make this one too long so you can see what happens. Now I'm going to create that curve, and I'm going to curve this until I'm happy with it, and then I erase any extra that I have. So I have my cone set in place. So what we're doing is creating all the objects that we need and putting them in place first. So we have our cone, our cylinder, our sphere, our ring, and our box. So we laid all those in. So now you can actually wipe away all the eraser because the eraser isn't necessary anymore. Now we're going to start working on our shading. So, and the one thing with this particular picture, you'll notice that there's no table line in the back. It's like infinite. It goes all the way back. So the table line doesn't come into play for this like it might have when we were in 3rd and 4th grade. So up here, we're going to actually start looking at our dark shadows, our number 6 shadows. So we're going to lay in all of our number 6 shadows. Number 6 shadows are all the shadows that are cast from the object. So we're going to create those shadows first. So I'm actually going to start back over here and work my way to the left side. So I'm going to start with the box. So you can see that the box, the number 6 shadow extends from the front corner. So we're going to use our straight edge, go from the front corner, get that diagonal that we see in the shadow. We're going to come in here and we're going to have our number 6 go right off the paper. Now, if your paper is like you still have a lot of space left, you could actually draw a line where you want the end of the paper to be. So if your paper goes way over here and you think that shadow's too long, then you can just draw a new line to create a new end of your paper. So we have our front edge, and then you'll notice back here we can see the shadow. It has a slight diagonal because this is sitting on a diagonal. So we're going to match the diagonal that we have, and we're going to bring it in here, and we're going to look and see how high it touches this box at the top. So I'm going to look at my edge here. Here's my edge. I'm just going to create that same angle, and I'm going to drop it in here and take it off the paper. So this is actually going to be all number 6 because that's what casts on the table. So I'm going to have you go ahead and pause and then color in this number 6 value. So you're going to go both directions. So you're going to go here, up and down vertical and horizontal. So pause the video and you can go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, now that you have your number 6 value for your box, we're going to move over and do our number 6 value for our sphere, our circle. So we're going to create our circle number 6 value, and if you look at this, it actually reflects onto, or not reflects, I'm sorry, casts a shadow onto the actual box itself. So we're going to go from the very bottom, touching the bottom. Right here you can see how it comes right, it touches the bottom, it makes a little dark line right here. You're going to start here at the bottom of the circle and you're going to curve it until it crashes into the box. And then the trick to this is taking this, and now you're going to take this curve, and it curved and touched the box. Now it's going to curve up and copy the circle. And then you're going to make this your number 6 value. So you're going to go ahead and do number 6 here and number 6 on the table. So go ahead and pause and do your number 6 value there. Okay, next we're going to do the ring. We're going to look at the ring and we're going to see that there's a number 6 value right in here cast from the front of the ring. So we're going to create this kind of crescent moon shape right in here, and you're going to make that your number 6 value. And because this is just small, we'll just do that together. So you just create your number 6 value right in there. And then you'll see a number 6 value on the other side touching the table. So it comes around the front of the ring and then just kind of creates a copy. You're going to copy that crescent in there and make like a crescent moon shape in there as well. And you're going to color that in nice and dark. Try and go both directions. I know it's a small space, but you just do the best you can getting that kind of dark value in there. Okay, so that's all we need to do for the hard shadows on the ring, because that's what's touching the table. So that's what creates that. Now we're going to create the hard shadow coming from the cylinder. So this is where you may need your straight edge again. So you're going to take your straight edge. We're going to come back at an angle until it crashes into the circle. So I'm going to bring this from the front corner right here where it touches the bottom of the cylinder. Bring this back until it crashes into the circle. And then you'll notice it actually, the shadow actually comes through, and you can see a little peek of it right back here in the corner. Now, if yours doesn't get this little peek back here, don't worry about it, okay? If yours just crashes here and then you can't do that little peek back there, that's okay. So we're just going to come in here and we're going to copy this angle. And we're going to draw the line so it crashes into the circle again, and then it does actually peek out from the other side of the circle and creates this little dark corner back here. But if yours doesn't do the dark corner in the back, it's okay. So go ahead and pause, and we're going to get this dark shadow laid in. That's our number 6 value. Okay, so we have our value for our cylinder, and if yours didn't make this little corner back here, this triangle shape back here, don't worry about it. As long as it has this as your number 6 value, that's okay. Now we're going to create the cone. The shadow for the cone is actually going to come from the edge of the cone, and notice how it goes up and crashes into the cylinder. So I'm going to look at my angle, I'm going to come to the edge of the bottom of the cone, and I'm going to bring it and crash it into the cylinder. And once I crash it into the cylinder, this is our number 6 value, but then you'll notice it's casting a shadow and making the triangle shape right in here. So I'm going to come up from my cast shadow on my table and look at the angle that I have on my cone, and I'm going to create that same angle, but I'm just going to make a shorter. It's not going to be as tall because it's casting a shadow. And then I'm going to bring it back and create the diagonal back into, it crashes into the cone. So I have, basically I'm copying the top of this cone and creating a shadow for it. So go ahead and color that in your number 6 value. Okay, now we have created all of our hard shadows, the shadows that are a number 6 value that are cast from the light source. Now we're going to start creating the shadows that are created, the values that are created on each individual object. So if we look at this box, we'll start with the box. This is our number 6 value. Our number 5 value actually would be on the side that we can't see. So that one's kind of hiding. So that's our number 5 value. And then our number 4 value would be the side that is closest to the shadow here. So what I'm going to do to create my number 4 value, if you recall, we actually grabbed some graphite from number 6. So we're going to actually use our graphite, our blending stick, and we are going to use our number 6 shadow, and you're going to grab some value, get your graphite, grab your graphite from your number 6, and you're going to grab all this and you're going to rub it nice and hard on on this edge right here to create number 4. So nice and dark. So you may have to go back a few times and bring it back. Come back, bring it back. So you're going to have to do that a few times to get this whole side of the box completed. So go ahead and do that. Okay, one thing I noticed with mine, I wasn't able to get it quite as dark as I would like to. So what we're actually going to do, if you weren't able to get yours as dark, this isn't quite as dark as it needs to be. So if you take your pencil and you very lightly just come in here and color with your pencil on top of what you've done with your shading stick already or blending stick, add a little bit more graphite to this surface just to make it a little bit darker. So go ahead and do that. Okay, now that I was able to add some graphite to this, now I'm going to take this and blend this out, and I'm going to use the graphite from this side now to create the inside of the box because I needed this to be just a little bit darker. It wasn't quite getting as dark as it needed to because it didn't have enough graphite. Now that I actually put the pencil on there, it's a little bit darker and works out a little bit better. So that would technically be more like our value number 5. So now I'm taking my number 5 and I'm going to bring over into this inside of the box. Now I'm going to create my number 4 value where I'm rubbing on this. This can be your 3 or 4 value. So you bring it over and you put this on the inside corner only with your blending stick. So inside corner, bring this over. And notice I'm going over and grabbing more graphite as I need it. So you grab the graphite you need and you just keep adding it until you get the value that you are looking for. So this is more like maybe our 3 value inside here, 3 or 4 maybe somewhere in there. And I just get in then this corner and make that a little bit darker. And if I feel like it needs to be a little bit darker, I can go grab some number 6 graphite and add a little bit more to it. Now the back of the box is our number 2 value, and if you recall, our number 2 value is where we just use what's left on our blending stick to create our number 2 value just a little bit lighter. We're going to do a light press on that. So I'm going to bring this in and I'm just going to very lightly add the graphite to this back of the box to create that back edge. And I'm going to have that be a lighter value. So I have my 6, and this pretty much ended up being our 5, which is totally fine. And then our 3, 4 maybe in here, and then this was our 2. And then we have our 1. We're just going to go ahead and leave that bright white so we can tell the difference between these. So I'm going to bring this in, add a little bit more if I feel like it needs to be a little bit darker in here. If you got this a little too dark, you can use your eraser and pull it back off, so that's fine too. So we're just creating the illusion of this box being open, and in order to do that, we have the different values. So if you feel like this needs to be a little bit darker, you can add more graphite. We're going to move on to the circle. So now we're going to create the dark edge of our circle or sphere. So I'm going to create my crescent shape right in here. You're going to see from the top of the shadow to the bottom of the shadow, I'm just going to create a number 5 value. So I'm just going to go one direction, number 5, not pressing really hard, just one direction, and just going from the edge of the shadow to the edge of the shadow. So that creates our number 5 value. So we're going to have that in there. And you'll notice it has a slight angle to it because of the way the shadow is, the way the light source is a little bit. We have a slight angle to it. And now I'm going to take my blending stick and grab my number 6 value. Grab my number 6 value. So just rub right on that number 6 value. And you're going to come over here and make your number 4 right next to number 5. And it, again, makes that kind of crescent shape. So we have that. We're bringing our 5. So our 6, 5, 4, and you'll notice how it kind of just slightly just fades out. So it fades out to about halfway. So now I'm going to take my number 5, rub on my number 5, and then I can go over my 4, and then I kind of do my 3, my 2, and then I'm going to just fade it out until it gets to be the 1 value. So just a real slight transition from 5, 4, 3, 2, and then we're done. Now there is one thing that you might notice on the picture. The cylinder is actually casting a shadow on the left side of the circle. So we're actually going to go from this bottom of the shadow that's touching the circle, and we're going to come up and make a slight crescent that goes up to the top, going the other direction. So this is like our crescent moon, and we're going to actually make this, we'll do this a number 5. So we can just do a number 5 where you just go one direction, and that gives you that shadow. And then I like to always blend this out to make it look a little bit smoother on the cylinder or on the sphere. So I like to blend that out just a little bit. So I have my values in here. Okay, so we're getting there. Now we're going to go, number 6 is in here. So now we have to have our number 5 value on our ring, and that's the outside edge and then the very inside edge. So we're going to make just a slight curve on the outside edge to follow the shadow, and you're going to make that your number 5 just around the very outside edge. And then on the very inside of the ring, you're going to go right here, right on the very inside, just follow your number 6 value right inside there. Now, because this is a ring, it's a little bit harder, and if you have a big blending stick, it might be difficult. If you have a Q-tip, it might be hard. So if you can do the folded piece of paper method, if you don't have a blending stick, that gives you a little bit of more of a pointed tip to get into these smaller areas. So I'm going to rub on my number 6, and I'm going to just bring it right along next to my number 5 on this outside edge, just the outside edge. Bring it down until it hits about the shadow down at the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside edge where I grab my number 6, and I'm just going to bring it right on the inside edge, just a little bit past the shadow on the inside edge. And then I'm going to grab my number 5, and I'm just going to do the same thing, just slightly creating that shadow along the outside and along the inside. So it's just the outside and inside edge. So this is the outside edge, outside right, and then inside on the left side, but it's actually the inside closest to the right. So we're creating that illusion of that being a round ring. And then I noticed right here where I have a little bit, I need to bring my shadow just a little bit more into here along this edge. So I'm going to actually extend that just slightly right in there and maybe draw this line just slightly darker to get that kind of like it's touching the table right in there. So that creates our ring. And then now we're going to move on to our cylinder. Our cylinder, if you'll notice, the shadow stops about halfway. And if you look, our number 5 goes about a quarter of the way. So we're actually going to bring our number 5 in. And if you want to, you can actually use your blending stick and go, okay, I think I need my number 5 to be about that far. So now I'm going to bring my number 5 value and I'm going to just drop it straight down and color this part of the cylinder about a quarter of the way. So go ahead and do that. Okay, I have my number 5 value in. So now I'm going to grab my number 6 value, which is from the shadow that's on the table. So I'm going to grab my number 6, blend this in. That actually makes it nice and smooth and gets it a little bit darker. I can grab some of that value. Now I'm going to go next to number 4 or number 5 and create my number 4. So I'm going to bring this over and create my number 4. You might need to grab a little bit more graphite, and as you go, keep grabbing graphite as you go to make your number 4. So you're going to do that all the way down, your number 4 value. And now we're going to grab from our number 5 to create our number 3 value. So I'm going to bring this over, and now I'm going to create my number 3 next to my number 5, not pressing quite so hard. And I go about halfway is where I want to stop, about halfway. So I have that kind of dark value, our number 5, and then I slowly blend it in so I get all the way to my number 3. Okay. Our number 2 value is actually going to be on the top of the cylinder. So now just use whatever's left on your blending stick and create your number 2 value on the top. So that's our number 2 on top of our cylinder. So that's our number 2, and then our 1 hits right here. So we have our 6, 5, 4, 3, and then 2 is the top. And then our cone is our last piece. And if you look at our cone, one thing you always want to make sure of when you do a cone is you never go past halfway. So I actually use my blending stick and I make a line that goes down the middle just so I don't go past that halfway mark. And I'm going to create a skinny triangle right here that gets a little bit wider at the bottom. This is going to be my number 5 value. So this is our number 5. It's a little bit wider at the bottom and gets skinny at the top. So go ahead and pause and get your number 5. Okay, now that I have my number 5 value, to make my number 4, we're going to rub on our number 6 value, and that is actually the one that actually is on the cylinder also. So rub on your number 6 value. And that'll smooth that out, make that look a little bit more realistic. Next to your number 5, now bring your number 4. It's wider at the bottom and then gets narrower at the top. So some of you might not even be able to get your value up into the point because your blending stick might not be skinny enough. So just do the best you can at bringing it down and making sure you have your value down at the bottom of your cone. Now you're going to take your number 5 value and rub on that to make your number 3 value, and then slowly come to the middle to create your number 2. And you want to keep this nice straight down the middle. Now I'm going to show you something I did on purpose just so I can show you guys what to do. I went a little bit past the middle right here. You can see I have a little bit of a hint past the middle. I can actually take my eraser and just kind of clean that up, where I just bring that so it's a little bit skinnier at the top. And I can get that so it's not going past the middle. And then I can just kind of redraw my side here that I have. So if you did go a little bit more of at an angle here, just bring your eraser and kind of straighten that back up and make it really skinny at the top and then wider at the bottom. So you just kind of blend this in until you get to your number 2, till you get to the middle. Okay, so we've created our values. So we've gone from our picture And remember, this is what we used as a guide. Yours isn't going to look exactly the same. Mine doesn't. It's okay. So we're creating this so the values are what we're working on, creating those three-dimensional shapes. So remember, when we are working on this, we have our values that are always the ones, number 6, touching the table, and then we work our way through the shape to get to our 5, our 4, our 3, and our 2. We go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And then if you look at this picture, one thing that we're going to do to help kind of define it a little bit more, and you may notice like these back corners are a little bit darker. This top edge, this is pretty bright down here. So you could take some of your whatever on your blending stick, or you can grab some more graphite. And on the table here, you can just make this have a shadow, a value down in here, so it's not pure white. So you can create that value. So on the table, it's a little bit darker here. It's a little bit darker back in there, and like I said, in this corner. So if you want to go ahead and add that value to it, that'll give it a little bit more realistic look. Okay, so I went in and added, you can see I added a little bit more value in here to create this more of maybe a 2 value, 3, somewhere in here. And then up in here, I have my values as well, just to give it that a little bit more realistic look compared to the picture that we drew. So we went from our our photograph that we were trying to copy, and we created our three-dimensional still life for a trimester 2. So when you finish this, make sure you take a picture of it and put it in your portfolio for me, and label it trimester 2 post assessment, and put the date on it for me as well. So thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy shading as much as I do. Bye.